Good morning, afternoon, or evening.
How you doing?
Welcome back for another session of Three Ball Walk. Bob, Eddie, Julio,
Yep.
here as always.
No, not always. Last week we were not here because we thought we were here, but we had a technical difficulty, so we weren't here.
taped the entire show and found out we only had 14 seconds.
It was
the
great
battery
14
died.
seconds, though. It was
awesome.
probably the best
But
14
you didn't
seconds.
put the 14 seconds on the air.
Well, I figured that would not be good.
It was a heck of a 14
was.
seconds. So now that we've been on more than 14 seconds, is it still running, Eddie?
I think so, but who knows? We'll find out.
We'll find out later. Hey, question for you. A-Rod is a consultant for the Yankees. They're paying him $25 million next year. And everyone's like, big news and everything like that, you know? On the other hand, Hamilton is getting paid $30 million by the Rangers next year to not even be a consultant. He's been released, sent home, bags packed and everything. I don't see the media uproar like, oh, what a waste and whatever. Why?
Yeah, why?
Yeah.
Well, because
Josh Hamilton's a good guy.
Josh Hamilton had been in the news. I mean, I didn't know that, so you're telling me that's news to me.
The Rangers released him. They still have to pay him the rest of this year and next year $30 million, which is $5 million more than what the Yankees are going to be paying A-Rod. And at least A-Rod's going to be working a little for it, showing up for spring training and whatnot. But is Josh Hamilton, the media just doesn't hate him as much, so giving him $30 million to release him from his contract is, well, that's the nature of the business. But with A-Rod, it's let's get Fume and I don't know.
It's New York, too.
It's New York. I think part of it, too, is the fact that Hamilton, is maybe the classic what-if guy of all time because of his substance abuse. And I think people are a little more forgiving when you see a guy who has struggled. It's like Doc Gooden, a week ago, Darryl Strawberry, Doc Gooden didn't show up to an event.
Daryl snapped, and now Doc's getting back.
Yeah, they both have had careers of substance abuse. What their careers have been like, I think you're a little more forgiving. With A-Rod, I mean, look,
He abused the substance,
he
too,
completely,
right?
completely
without
different
a doubt.
type.
They made him it's his last day. Oh, they're going to be paying. I mean, every minute he's going to be making this for doing that.
And likability is a big deal. It's if you like somebody, you cut them a little more.
I was
slack.
looking last night on the thing they had.
Naturally.
He signed that. He left Texas, went to the Angels, signed that 4-year, $125 million, back end loaded, where he's making 30 the last year, and in 3 years he has played 280 games.
Yeah, it's
280 games they paid.
It's terrible.
Is all they got for that contract.
That's not a bad deal. I clearly wish I had spent more time trying to be better at baseball and running faster. If only we had
That's what the
speed
Angels,
drills
and then they
back
send
then.
them back to
I could hit, I could run, I could throw. I just couldn't run very fast. So if we had speed drills, who knows? Maybe I would have made like $2 million. And
Remember when the
we'd be in
Angels
corners.
signed Pujols and Hamilton in the same offseason?
Yeah.
And
Everybody made a big splash.
and neither of them.
And I think that's part of the problem when you get to front office deals. You're sitting there as a front office guy, and you're getting pressure from owners, you're getting pressure from different groups of fans. We need to win. We need to win now. We need to go out and get somebody. And then you're like, okay, I'm going to go out and get somebody. And you go out and get a guy like Josh Hamilton,
Whose better years are behind
whose
him.
better years are behind him, or who may have 1 or 2 years left in him right now that are really good, and then he's going to be on the decline.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a guy who gets hurt, and then he's at that age when you get hurt, you don't recover as well. You can't recover completely, and now you're paying for a guy. You're paying for his reputation for what he used to be, and now he's not that anymore. And now you clearly have $30 million on the hook because you paid for something that wasn't going to last until you got there anyway.
And the Rangers can re-sign him next year.
What's that?
They can pick him up because they let him go before September 1st. So I think they can sign him to a minor league contract next year. So
He's got that $30 million.
right.
coming,
But they can bring him back. Is my point.
sure, but anyone else can as well.
And they probably should. And speaking of guys, and we talked about this after the 14 seconds was up last week, was talking about go get somebody. I still say, why haven't the Marlins made a move on Yasiel Puig yet? I mean, you talk about going to get somebody that can help you. I'm sure the Dodgers. I talked to somebody the other day about it. They said, "Oh, it's too much money." Believe me, I bet the Dodgers would pay some of that contract.
You don't know that, and we
No.
talked about that during the trade deadline. Is maybe the reason they were unable to unload him is because their asking price is too high.
Sure.
Sure. But I mean, at this point, your asking price has got to be reduced somewhat
Than what it was during the
trade deadline. So now you say maybe you pick up half the contract or 2/3 of the contract, and you send him down. But the other question is are the Dodgers trying to send Puig a message to say, you either get your act together and come back next year, or you're not going to get anything. We're going to flat out release you, and then where are you going to go? Because if we release, because I'm sure that teams can blackball players with their comments behind the scenes. Hey, this guy does this, he undercuts you this way.
Yep.
And you always see those guys that are in the second, third year of their careers and everything, and I'm making up the Brewers are ripping him off because they're only paying him $400,000 and he deserves such and such and whatever. And the bottom line is, you've got those guys that you're paying for what they did in the past,
right?
And you've got to pay it. And then you've got those guys that are still in their first 3 or 4 years where they're just at arbitration or they haven't reached their free agent status, that you can get by paying them that, and then it balances out. And that's the problems with guys like Puig. Well, Puig was a free agent because he defected and he came over as a free agent, so he didn't have to go through those first few years like.
Right.
But you wind up giving him a huge contract right up front. If it's Jose Fernandez, for example, why can the Marlins pay Stanton so much money? Because they're not having to pay Jose yet.
Right.
And they're not going to. And then people criticize they should pay him. Not right now. We got to,
Which is one of the reasons Pujols defected and went to Anaheim. Because he felt the Cardinals had gotten a deal for so long, and when he wanted the contract, they weren't willing to pony the money. Bye. That's why he went to Anaheim.
Well, I mean, that's free agency. I mean, that's been free agency from the very beginning. And you talk to, when I was in college and had the chance to talk with Coach Chapman, who was my coach, and all the guys that he played with, and asked them that question. Because free agency was just, 1982, 83, 84. It was just sort of hitting really its peak. Big contracts were being offered. Right. I think that was A-Rod's big contract year happened in there, somewhere around in there, where he started getting the $25 million a year. And so
when the Rangers signed him away from the Mariners.
From the Mariners. And so we were asking him about that, what he thought about that. And he goes, look, I'm all for it. He said, when we played, we didn't have any rights.
No.
And he said the only right a player has is to take his skills somewhere else.
Right.
And so when you get guys on the front end of the contract and you honor that, I think that says something to your organization. But so many guys now want to say, oh, well, I got 2 years remaining. I need to renegotiate my contract. Well, okay, if that's the case, then when you've got 2 years left on the back end, the club should be able to renegotiate the contract. So the club should be able to say, you're not producing now, so we're going to cut you, which is what happened to all those players prior to free agency.
Sure, absolutely.
I mean, Chappie one time led the league in doubles and RBIs and walked into spring training and got met at the train by the GM. And he said, Chappie, you're going to have to take a pay cut this year. And he's like, the heck you say I'm taking a pay cut? And he said, well, you can either take a pay cut or you can get your butt back on that train and go right back to Alabama.
Which is what, coincidentally enough, I was listening to this morning, totally unrelated sport, but Mark Sanchez is the only veteran on the Broncos, and they're saying if he doesn't start, there's a good chance that they'll release him because he's the only quarterback that they have to pay money to. The other two rookie guys who have never taken an NFL snap are making nothing.
Sure.
And that's how baseball was. I mean, and the NFL is still that way. Hey, you can sign a 5-year deal, but after the first year, it's all at the club's discretion.
Well, and you get the money up front. And maybe I think maybe that's a better way. Because you get your money up front.
In the NFL?
Well,
No.
hear me out. Hear me out. As a player, all right? So, yeah, it's better for you as a player, but as a sport as a whole and an organization, how many teams are on the hook for millions of dollars to guys who aren't playing?
Correct.
So, you get your money up front, so you pay, your signing bonuses may go up, and the guaranteed money in the first year may go to $40 million. You paid that off. But after that time, then it's year to year on your contract. So if the guy doesn't play anymore, you're not paying Josh Hamilton $30 million on the back end. He made $30 million at the front when you were like, okay, this is a good deal. So you see what I'm saying? If you balance the money somewhat up front for the players, and then on the back end leave it for the clubs to be able to say, you're not producing anymore. There's no reason why we ought to have to pay you 4 or 5 million or 10 million or 40 million or 30 million, however it is, for you not to play. And as you talked about, who was it that's getting paid $1 million every year?
There are Bobby Bonilla.
Bobby
the
Bonilla
Mets,
for the
every
Mets.
July 1 every year up until the year 2040 or something like that.
So see, that to me is ridiculous. Why you pay a guy that many years? Why you have to pay a guy that many years for doing absolutely nothing for you anymore? Is the hurts the club, in my opinion. And that's why I say that it may be better.
But with the NFL, you know, one thing, and not to, we don't talk about football, but with the NFL, you know, that's the one sport I think that contracts should be guaranteed over any other sport because of the damage a player takes to his body. You know, in NFL, if your contract isn't guaranteed, see you. I mean,
they do, and it happens all the time.
It happens all the time with baseball. I think that, you know, in a free market system that we live in, you know, you should be able to get as much as you possibly can, which is why Scott Boras is so effective. But shouldn't you also be able to protect yourself as a team? I mean, when you were with the Dodgers or the Marlins, I mean, you saw big contracts, obviously. What was the feeling of say, management when they give somebody all that money?
Well, the whole point is, and I remember saying this 5-10 years ago, is forget the auto workers, Jimmy Hoffa, the strongest labor union in the world is the Major League Baseball Players Association.
Sure.
And they are not going to give 1 inch anything that they already have gotten.
No.
And it's sad, but they hold, and the reason is, in my opinion, is because the owners all have different interests. The Yankees are the big market team, the Brewers are the small. There's no unification. The Yankees would just as soon, let's pay all we can because that's going to guarantee them having the best team because the other teams can't afford that, don't have as much income. In the NFL, on the other hand, everyone has
Shares. So
shares. You actually make, every team, every owner makes as much money as the other. The Yankees are making 10, 20 times more money than the Marlins are, for example, or Tampa Bay. Well, it's in their best interest to drive up the salaries, and they do, and that's what they're trying to do, while the other owners are trying to keep them down. And meanwhile, who rakes it in?
The players.
The players,
And you
because
can't
there's
blame
no
them.
unified,
you can't blame them.
there's
Yeah, I
no
don't blame-
unified front.
I don't blame a player. I mean, if somebody out there wants to offer me a contract, and you want to pay me $20 million not to work next year, I'll be happy to take you up on that. I mean, I'll sign
Right now.
and work. Yeah, right now I'll work for a year for you, and then if you don't like me, you can fire me and keep paying me. I don't mind that. I don't mind that from the player perspective, but I think for the game, I'm not so sure it's good for the game to be restricting teams that are now on the hook for all these millions of dollars for players that are not.
Well, and I don't know, and I know Josh Hamilton obviously has been on the DL for whatever, and he hasn't played since all
I
year
didn't
or
even
whatever.
realize he was still on the roster.
And by doing it now, what the team will probably claim to do, and I remember Alex Fernandez, when Alex got hurt and everything like that, well, he's going to be out the entire year. Well, he had the surgery in, and I'm making this up, he had the surgery in September, and it's 9 months. He should be able to go in July or August, and let's see if he can come back. Well, if he doesn't miss the whole season, then you have to pay that salary. But you get insurance on that contract, and if he's on the DL the whole year, and now I'm wondering, are the Rangers saying, look, he's been on the DL, he can't play anymore, and then it becomes an insurance claim, and they pay that $30 million.
Right.
While all of a sudden, if they wait until the spring, and he's somewhat can play, now you've got to pay that $30 million. So, and I don't know. I mean, but I'm just saying, I remember we did that with the Marlins. We did that with Alex. It was like, boom, you're injured, you're out the whole year, and it becomes an insurance.
If you got insurance on it, that's a whole different issue than the insurance company's paying.
And all those big contracts, you have to have insurance.
Yeah, who's the guy that insures that? I mean, who's
the premiums they're paying quite a bit.
Who's the company that's going to take that on and go, oh yeah, by the way, $40 million on the hook for a guy getting hook slide? That's the guy who gets upset with somebody rolling into second base. Is the guy who owns that company who now is looking at $40
But then that $30 million, when he was collecting it, the team was paying $35 because they were paying $5 million for the insurance. And but that's what winds up happening.
Yeah, not bad. Well, time's about up for this segment.
That was fun. That was fun talk about contracts and different things and everything.
Yeah, if you have some questions, send them to us on Facebook. Write them down. See us on the email. You can see the email that pops up on the bottom of the screen sometime. Hopefully we'll see you guys soon. Go out and play some baseball if you get a chance this week, and watch some on TV if you don't.
Play ball.